Bhadram karnevih shrunuyama devaah Bhadram pashyamakshabhirjajatraah Sthirairangaye stoštubhagum sastanubhih Veshima devahitai yadayuh Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with our ears what is auspicious. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious. Tranquil in body and mind, may we spend our lifetime for God realization and for doing good to humanity. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Friends, I am extremely happy to introduce to you Swami Adiswarananda Ji Maharaj, head of the Ramakrishna-Vivekananda Center, New York. Swami first visited our St. Louis Center in 1971 when Swami Satprakashananda Ji was alive, and then in 1979 during Swami Satprakashananda's memorial service, and this is the third time he came to participate our Golden Jubilee. The Swami was an educationist and a very good writer and a very successful editor of the Prabuddha Bharata magazine, which is published monthly from Mayavati, which was started by Swami Vivekananda in 1896. He came to this country in 1968 as an assistant of Swami Nikhilananda, and after the Swami's passing away in 1973, Swami took the responsibility of that center. Swami is a wonderful speaker and a very respectable monk of our Ramakrishna order. We sometimes do not eulogize too much our monks, but he is a very wonderful person. And this morning he will speak Vedanta, the way of life, and in the evening at 8 p.m. he will speak living in the world of reality. We wanted him to stay a few days more, but he has a very tight schedule. Tomorrow morning he will go to Kansas City and he will speak in the evening there. Then Tuesday he will return to New York. Of course he is driving with other monks. So I am very happy. He generally does not go too much out, so we are very fortunate that he is here. And he will speak on Vedanta, the way of life. Swami Adiswarananda.
I thank all of you for being here this morning to join in this year-long anniversary of the Vedanta of this center. Indeed, it is an opportunity for me to come. It is not so much a visit, but a pilgrimage for me to meet all of you. I thank heartily Swamiji for introducing me to all of you and for his generosity and warm hospitality, which I've been enjoying since yesterday. The subject this morning is Vedanta, the way of life. Probably you have been hearing on this subject from different Swamis, different well-known speakers during the last few months. It is a big subject, covers wide area. but I like to limit myself to the time and the opportunity. The growth of science and technology has radically altered our thoughts, our concepts, the perspectives of life, values, virtues. What we used to think, our standards of value judgments, are not the same today. Prayers are considered old-fashioned. Instead of prayer, we think in terms of therapy. No more we think of holy days, but they have given in to holidays. Confession is not a very wonderful thing in modern times. Someone said that confession is good for the soul, bad for reputation. So therefore, we don't want to confess. Instead of counseling, joining a mass, we believe in workshop. In spiritual matters, astrology, levitation are considered as more credible attainments than communion with God and inner peace. These perspectives remind us of the declining days of Roman Empire. Rome, the grandeur that it was, it disintegrated because of its spiritual thinness. Toward the end, the virtues were pushed into the background, replaced by convenience. Marriage was a contract. Wild pleasures were considered avocations of life. Historian Livy tells us that we cannot endure that which is going on, nor can we endure its remedying it. Tacitus, another historian, points out that Rome is bound to disintegrate because of its spiritual blindness. Juvenal describes this in bitter satire. But these did not reach the ears of the masses. And the Rome that the grandeur it was, it did disintegrate. But the night is darkest before dawn. Even the darkest clouds have their silver linings. These changes of perspectives, pervading secular outlook, decline of the moral values, they have together done one wonderful thing: prepared the stage for the study and practice of Vedanta, if I might say so. 95 years ago, Swami Vivekananda, when he was visiting this country, he made a prophecy that Vedanta would be the religion of the 21st century. In his famous address, "Is Vedanta the future religion of the world?" Swami Vivekananda points out that this would be the future religion of mankind. Question comes, why Vedanta? And what it is? Probably before Swami Vivekananda, we did not hear much about Vedanta. Vedanta is not a new religion. Even in India, where the great researches of Vedantic thought were made, it changed hands. The Brahmins, the the first envisioned the truth of Vedanta. Because of their moral failure, it passed into the hands of the military people. You will find in the Upanishads the great teachers of no hours of Brahman or knowledge of Brahman, nor always Yajnavalkyas. But we find King Janaka, King Prabhahana. These are military people. Then again it changed hands. Vedanta is not a popular teaching in India until Swami Vivekananda's time. Swami Vivekananda tells us that he brought Vedanta to the open market for the benefit of the masses because the time was ready. The religion for the lay people remains the same all over the world. Someone explained who is a layman. Layman is who remains lying on Sundays on bed instead of attending the church. He is a layman. Lay people are satisfied joining a prayer, visiting a temple, putting $1 in the collection basket, going home, digesting everything. Because the precepts, the goal, the technique of Vedanta are not something which the average person can take it. It used to be called as Rahasya Vidya, a mystery teaching, kept in the hands of the ascetics, monks, and recluses. Its radical concepts are unnerving. Average person cannot take it. Average person follows the masses. They do not do independent thinking. We find in the European history, first came the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, Reformation. Average person took the responsibility of independent thinking on himself or herself. But it was too difficult to think and make decisions. Gradually, church came, told them, you don't need to think or even pray, we will do for you. You go home. People felt relieved that such a responsibility. But Swami Vivekananda felt the time would come soon which this teaching would be needed at that time. Swami Vivekananda says, Vedanta saved India twice. During the period of the Bhagavad Gita and later during the declining days of Buddhism, the great Buddha's teaching, which illumined whole Southeast Asia and part of Middle East, became wrecked and ruined later days because of his moral failure. No teacher did that much good to India as Buddha did, and no teaching did that much harm to India as Buddhistic teachings did. It is because it failed. It opened the gates of monastery to one and all, irrespective of their ability and capability. The high teaching, that which is for the selected, made available to the masses. As a result, its standard fell down. But Swami Vivekananda points out, but because of the science and scientific thinking, Vedanta would be easier to understand and practice. Vedanta is scientific. We call anything scientific which can be repeated. Repeatability is one of the main characteristics of any scientific teaching. That which proved to be true 2000 years ago will be again proved to be true, provided we are able to fulfill the experiments. That is called science. Science says that we do not do anything new, we discover. In fact, there is no such thing as invention. It is discovery. Seeing the falling apple, Newton discovered the law of gravitation. Not that before Newton apples used to fly up. They were falling since the time of creation. But at one point, a great thinker with its perspective noticed that and noticed a law which is universal. We cannot say that law of karma operates only on the other side of the Suez Canal and not this side. If it is scientific, it will be applicable everywhere. Next, it is pragmatic. The great American philosopher William James told us about pragmatism. Pragmatism is the cash value of a teaching. There are two values, credit value, cash value. Credit value is what will happen hereafter. But cash value is here. There indeed no celestial solution to an earthly problem. We need an earthly solution, worldly solution to the worldly problem. And that speaks of pragmatism. Third, Vedanta claims that it is therapeutic. It can be applied to everyday life to solve difficulties, manage the problems. It can be used as a treatment. Next, it is democratic. A political teaching is powerful, particularly democracy, because in a democracy, largest number of people take the responsibility. In the same way, Vedanta claims freedom and democracy, where all will be treated in the same way, and freedom of worship, freedom of the pursuit of truth. This freedom being given in India went into excesses. Here, as we know, with the coming of science, new ideas, taste of religious freedom, we are going into excesses. It is quite natural. In the Western societies, there was no religious freedom. There was social freedom, but no religious freedom. In India, there are hundreds of social taboos, but about religious matters, each one is free to choose. There is no official doctrine. There is no official temple. There is no particular denomination where you need to belong. Let us see in the Western societies, particularly in the Christian societies, if you happen to be Catholic, if you want to be a saint, first you have to perform 5 miracles. Then you have to die. Then you must be fortunate enough to have somebody in heaven to sponsor your case in Vatican. Then you must survive the devil's advocate. Then you are canonized on a tentative basis. If later it is proved that your miracles are not enough, you will be demoted. It is a lot of hard things are there. But go to India. In my time, in my school days and college days, right in Calcutta, I used to see and hear 7 incarnations of God, not just one. Anybody comes from the high Himalayas, he says that he knows God, talks with God, communes with God. Freedom has its limits and its excesses. Next, it is psychological. You may not believe in the Vedas, you may not believe in the scriptures, but Vedanta says that you have to accept the teachings purely on psychological ground. A teaching, if it is universal, must be acceptable from a rational point of view, psychological point of view. Lastly, it is universal. It transcends all time, space, causation limitations. Strictly speaking, we cannot call Vedanta a religion, not even a philosophy, not even a theology. It is an experience. It has value when it is lived. It has no value when it is only thought of, meditated upon, purely on theoretical basis. It is a drag, it is a burden. But it has value. Like a road, it has value when you walk on. It has value like a cookbook, if you want to cook. It considers scriptures as nothing better than road maps and cookbooks. A person who is an expert cook, he does not need to consult cookbook. A person who is averse to cooking also, he does not need. But in between, this is necessary. Temples, creeds, books, and so forth. Vedanta says that from absolute point of view, there is no problem, there is no need for solution. The great Gaudapada, the great teacher of the Mandukya Karika, he says that from absolute point of view, there is no problem. There is no need of solution. But if you think you have a problem, and this is what we do, then my teaching is also a thought. You can overcome a thought only with a thought. You can overcome a dream, bad dream, with a good dream. In this sense, Vedanta says that all these books, scriptures, temples, they are mere thoughts to counter other thoughts. Let us see the areas of the basic principles of each religious system. Nature of the ultimate comes first. Commonly, it is God. But what is the nature of God? Is God a person or a personality? Pure spirit? Is Father in heaven or Mother in heaven? If I say is Father in heaven, then I have to think who was the grandfather and grandmother and the whole family tree, and we will be in trouble. If we say it is pure spirit, then it is considered callous, indifferent to the human concern, far beyond the reach of human understanding. Then how do we call? What is the abode of God? Where does he live? We always say, heaven save us. Where is the heaven? Up or below? We find all these are described. God as person, God as pure spirit, God as personality, which is in Islam, anthropomorphic, anthropopsychic. Then God as incarnation of God. Incarnation is one or more. These are varieties of questions. Abode of God is high up above, separate from us and different from us, or it is near us. To tell you a little story, little Johnny came back from the school. Came home. At home, they read the sacred books. Next day when he came, the teacher asked, question was, what is the abode of God? Where does God live? Little Johnny said that God lives in our bathroom. Teacher said, bathroom? He said, yeah, last night my dad was tapping at the door of the bathroom but telling, my God, you are still there. So therefore, what is the abode of God? We cannot say. We cannot say God is all-pervading. We cannot say God is in this temple. For the average person, God is in the temple and 100% in the altar. As you go away from the altar, following the law of diminishing return, God's presence also gradually gets diminished. Are these true? Vedanta says all of them are true, but not at the same time. Different ideas of God as a person, personality, they are but concepts. what we think of God, not God, what is God to himself or herself. These are different pictures taken of the sun from different distances. In the beginning, God is far away. We talk loud, chant prayer. Because we think if we silently pray, God may not hear. He may have ear problem. That also so forth. Then gradually, as we begin to feel God is nearer, then our language changes, relationship with God changes, and we become silent. As Ramakrishna says that in the beginning we have formal prayer. Then formal prayer ends into the concentrated prayer. Gayatri, a concentrated prayer of the Vedas. Then Gayatri to one particular note, Om. Om into silence of Samadhi. This is the nature of the ultimate. All what we think of God, that is concept. But concept cannot be dispensed with until you reach a higher concept. We need creed, concept. Next comes creation, the world. Who created? We are told God created heaven, earth, and the interspaces. He created out of nothing. But how? Out of nothing, it has become something to us. Can something come out of nothing? Vedanta says yes and no. If it is something, it is to you, not to God. Frankly speaking, between Vedanta and the Christian theology, there is no fundamental difference, at least to me. Vedanta says it is nothing. Mirage, a dream. But dream is no dream, nothing to a dreamer. So long I am in dream, dream is a reality. I cannot say that is mere dream. So out of nothing, it is also nothing, but due to some reason it has become something and sitting on my shoulder. That something is in me and in my thought, nothing more than that. There are three views of creation commonly spoken of that cover all the doctrines of all religions. Theory of absolute creation. God created on a certain day the earth, heaven, interspaces, man, angel, and animals. This is called theory of absolute creation. It began on a certain day. If that is so, then where from God got material? You know, to create something you need two things, an idea and raw material. God might have many ideas, but where from he got the material? Then we have to think that he got material from the previous cycle of existence. Then who created that material? The moment you bring reason and philosophy, you are in deep trouble. Therefore, it is said that someone, when St. Augustine were giving a discourse on creation, he said, God created heaven, earth, interspaces, and he rested. Someone asked that what God had been doing before that. He said he was creating hell for the over-curious. That is, you cannot question. Second is the doctrine of divine transformation. That part of God has become a universe, and part remains God, who to receive our worship. But can we think of that which is infinite, immutable, incorporeal? Think in terms of part and whole? Shankaracharya has criticized this doctrine to tell that part of the infinite, incorporeal God became transformed into universe is like telling someone brought a live chicken, slaughtered it, half cooked for dinner, half he kept in the fridge for laying eggs tomorrow, which is fallacious and logically not maintainable. Although this is one of the major doctrines of creation. Third is, non-dualistic Vedanta upholds the doctrine of illusory superimposition. that it is all God. But I am seeing the world, and that world is in the mind. So my life, my perspective, my perceptions, they are not what they can perceive the things as they are, but I perceive them in a way I like. Average human being, he uses three kinds of light: spiritual light, emotional light, and ordinary physical light. The more advanced you begin to see in emotional light, further advanced spiritual light, which is the true light. So illusory superimposition, that it is a mirage. It is a cobra on a piece of rope in darkness. But how come that a dream cobra can bite and I die, which is a real death? How? We find dream water I use for cleansing my clothes. To that it is argued that so long in dream is a reality. Ultimately nothing but God. But God appears as this world is an appearance. The point of good and evil, which is a common difficulty and points of understanding, are they too different? Vedanta says no. They are value judgments of the individual mind because of their previous programming. That which is good for me is not good for you. That which is good for one day, it may not be good for another day. So therefore good and evil, they are concepts. They are changing. There is no absolute good and evil. To overcome good and evil, I must overcome both. There cannot be evil without good, and there cannot be good without evil. Both coexist, both go together. They are due to the polarization of the individual mind. You will find a common experience when you go to meditate and concentrate. The moment you are summoning your will to concentrate, you will feel the steepest resistance of your mind. Why? When you are summoning your will, you are summoning all your good thoughts for one purpose. All the bad thoughts, they also form an alliance. It is like a NATO and Warsaw Pact countries. All the contrary thoughts, they also get polarized, unified, to give us a joint resistance. Immediately, when you give up the attempt, you don't feel that resistance. This is called polarization. How to overcome? You overcome both, neither good nor evil. In olden days, in New York area, when there used to be a train system, you could open the train windows. One day in a train from New York to Philadelphia, train was moving in one seat. The middle of the aisle, on two side seats, in each seat two could see. Two ladies were sitting. Elderly. Windows. It was winter day. The windows were closed. The two ladies, one had heart problem. The other was susceptible to cold and developed pneumonia. One wanted to open the window. The other wanted to close it. Gradually, the discussion turned into an argument into a quarrel into a brawl. Conductor guard came. One said, if you don't open the window, I'll have a heart attack. The other said, if you open the window, I'll get pneumonia and die. Conductor guard was speechless. What to do? Finally, several people gathered. So one of the conductor asked one of the passengers, well, sir, what do you suggest? He said, I have a solution. You open the window, kill one. Close the window, kill the other. That is the only solution. That is the only solution you can have. So therefore, good and evil, they have to be overcome by going beyond them, beyond both. Salvation, Vedanta says, is not going to some place or some palace. It is liberation, freedom of the spirit. It has to be attained here. What happens hereafter depends upon what happens here. So therefore, we cannot think of hereafter leaving the question of here to the future. So therefore, I must attain that before I die. What Ogden has said is very true, that you will get pie in the sky when you die is a lie. If it is true, it must be tested here. This is salvation. The way? What is the way then? Vedanta says scriptures vary. Prophets are not unanimous. Theologies are intricate. Reason goes in a circle. Dharmasya tattam nihita guhayam. That which is the secret, the key, remains embedded in the inner recess of your heart. Nobody can open that door unless you open. It says directly perceived, direct realization, the very soul of Vedanta. That you must perceive directly. This brings us to the another question. What is direct and what is indirect? There are three things of perception: faith, reason, direct perception. Faith is believing in something. Vedanta says, you may believe in Vedas, Bible, Quran, but that is in the believing in the belief of another person. That is not your belief. You cannot whole life go on thinking and telling, Bible says, Vedas say. What do you say? It is a belief. Belief does not give us the substance. Belief is belief. Then comes reason. Well, reason begins with doubt, kept sustained by doubt. It also ends in doubt. It has more faith in doubt than in faith. It is said, someone in a journal beautifully, that I had a friend whose name was Guesser, used to guess. His knowledge began to grow lesser and lesser. At last it became so small, he knew nothing at all, and he became a college professor. This is the role of the philosophy. A philosopher is by and large a doubter. You'll never find a man of pure reason he is happy. He is always in deep difficulty. So therefore philosophy cannot rescue us. To tell you another little story. In a bus on a winter day, a professor was taking a ride of about 5-6 hours. When he sat, he saw by his side there was another passenger, an old farmer, a country folk. The professor began conversation, made friends. He said, let us pass the time by exchanging riddles. And I'll tell a riddle, you answer. And you will tell a riddle, I will answer. If I fail to answer, I owe you $1. But since when you fail, you owe me 50 cents. This I am doing because since I had the opportunity of education, study, philosophy, and you did not have that, so therefore I am making your bet a little less. Obviously, the professor was a little highbrow. The farmer said, well, I am ready with my riddle. What is that which weighs 650 pounds when it is on the ground, but 3 ounces when it is in the air? Professor began to scratch his head. He brought all his knowledge. He could not get anything. He became red. Finally said, I must admit that I don't know. Here is my $1. The farmer said, I don't know either. Here is my 50 cents. So therefore, this is the reason. So the way is material solution, it does not help. Materialist tells us, well, don't think of philosophy, reason, hereafter. Eat, drink, make merry. Make hay while the sun shines. But we soon discover, materialists, that even though sun shines, it is not easy to make hay. Another story, if I may add to you. There was an old farmer in a country home. He had a son. The farmer used to make hay. That was his main business. The son grew up. He wanted to be a city slicker. He wanted to come to the city, get a job, make money, perhaps in the Wall Street area, which is an easy way of making money. He was not satisfied with hundreds, but he was thinking in terms of millions and billions. So he moved to the city. He had a dream. He tried here and there, this business, that contact. Whatever money he brought, he spent up. Finally, there was nothing. He ended up in the Grand Central as a shoe shine boy. He used to shine shoes of people. The moral of this story, the old farmer continues to make hay while the sun shines. So this is the condition of the materialists. So the way is, comes experience. An experience can be spooky, can be a dream. Experience, when not backed by reason, is a suspect. It can be the result of auto-suggestion, false perception. So therefore, in faith, reason, and experience, each one taken independently cannot lead us anywhere. Vedanta says, combine the three. That which is belief, scrutinize it through reason. Reason can tell you what is not true. It cannot tell you what is true. Its role is negative. That which has been taken from the sacred text, scrutinized by reason, and also felt as an experience, we can be pretty sure about it. The great Buddha said, the ideal man is cool head and the warm heart. Head and the heart, when they combine, they give us the decision. And the two are inversely related, you will find. When the heart starts getting cold, head also starts getting hot. That is also true. So therefore, to maintain this balance. So Vedanta says that the way it is here, you begin as an inquirer, then as a seeker. Your desire to know the truth becomes active. A seeker then gradually enters the arena of knower. Then he becomes a seer. These are called transformations of the individual. He begins with books and temples. Then gradually he comes into his own heart. In search of truth, he goes outside the world, searches in holy waters, sacred temples, pages of the scriptures. Finally, he completes his journey, comes back to himself. It is the law of physics. If a straight line infinitely extended forward, it will come back to me again, completing the 25,000 miles of circumference of the earth. All the three are to be taken. Vedanta has four basic pillars: non-duality of the Godhead, divinity of the soul, oneness of existence, harmony of religions. Non-dual. No matter who calls reality what, it does not matter. Some believers in time call it time. Believers in person call it God. Believers in space call it space. That is a mere belief. What it is, you cannot describe. That is an indescribable experience. That which began as a brain-dictated doctrine must be felt as an experience. What is the proof of experience? Transformation. That is the surest proof. Not spiritual visions, not miracles, occult powers, but transformation. A tree is to be known by its fruit. This transformation does not come simply by believing. There is a difference always, what I believe and what I really believe. That distinction is there. So therefore, in order to be transformed, I must be transformed into that very truth. I must be transformed into God and godliness. For that, it requires spiritual practices and disciplines. Vedanta does not deny sudden conversion, which is a major concept of Christianity. But that is not for all. That which appears as sudden, it was really not sudden. So therefore, it must be transformed through changing our thought, changing our habit, memories. Each day, when you sit down to meditate, pray, you acquire memories. Each successive time you do, you reinforce the previous spiritual memories. Then at the time of departure, all the memories, they join together into a mass, which the Upanishads call the raft of Brahman. Sitting on the raft of Brahman, the Supreme Spirit, a mortal person crosses this ocean of birth and death. This is the memory, which rises above. A story. There was a southern lawyer, successful. Southern means here, southern United States. And he had a slave who used to plow a little patch of land with his donkey. But lawyer's success was attributed to this memory of this slave, whose name was Sam. He had a stenographic memory. So when the lawyer used to go in the court, he used to carry Sam instead of carrying a machine. Obviously, that time machines were not there. And Sam was like a reel of tape. Every conversation for hours he would exactly reproduce. He became a legend. One day, the lawyer was in his study. Devil entered. What do you want? Demanded the lawyer. Devil said, Sam's time has come. He has to go. Lawyer said, listen, come on. You are a sporting man. Let's make a deal. I need Sam badly for my legal practice. If you can prove that he is failing in his memory, then you are free to take him. Or if you can fool him that his memory has lapsed, I have no objection. But if not, you can take him now. Devil agreed to this proposal. So, after some time, he came outside. Sam was plowing. And he asked, do you like eggs? Sam said, yeah. Devil vanished. Meanwhile, civil war came. Sam fought on behalf of his master. Then he was captured by the northerners. He was forced to fight on behalf of the north. He got wounds. Finally, the emancipation came. Peace came. Sam got back to his master. This time, master made him free and gave him the piece of land he used to plow on his behalf. Now, the land belongs to Sam. So he got back to his old profession of plowing the land. Several years lapsed. Devil thought, now he will try. He came. One day, Sam was plowing. He said, Sam, how? Sam said, pride. he did not forget. He asked, do you like eggs? This time he asked, how? He said, fried. Devil vanished, living in peace. That is the memory. When you, each day, that memory stands above everything. Second is the oneness of existence. Second pillar of Vedanta, basis of ethics. I should do good to others because others and me are not different. That is the basis of ethics and morality. But ethics and morality, unless they lead to direct perception of God, that's a drag. A moral man is a troubled man whose morality is the only goal. In India, there was an incident. A Brahmo leader, his name was Heramba Maitra. Even now a great college bears his name in Calcutta. A moralist, but not so much for direct perception of truth. He was a big, hefty man. He was coming to his college. One young man from the country came to Calcutta. He wanted to go to a movie. And he didn't know where the movie house. So he, not knowing whom to ask, he ran into this Mitra. Sir, where is this movie house? He stood, gave him a stern look. He said, young man, you couldn't find another person to ask about a movie house. You wanted to ask me? I don't know. In a huff, he proceeded. After all, he was a moral man. He had a little bite of conscience. He said he did not tell the truth because he knew where the movie house. He came back and he began to search for the young man in that crowd. That's an intersection. After half an hour, searched him, grabbed his hand. He said, young man, I know, but I won't tell you. That is the moral dilemma. So moral man is not free. So morality, ethics, if they do not lead to the ultimate direct perception of God, they're burden as reason and philosophy. The third is the divinity of the soul. We do not become divine and pure by doing prayer and chanting. We only gain faith in our inner purity. The difference between a saint and a sinner is the conviction he has on its sin or virtue. A saint is a saint because he has more faith in his saintliness than in his foibles. A sinner is a sinner because he has more faith in his sins than in his good virtues. Fourth comes the harmony of religions. That all religions lead to the same goal. What you call different religions, they are only different paths. Nothing more than that. All roads lead to Rome, provided Rome is your destination. The harmony which Vedanta upholds, it is not that, it is eclectic, which is a kind of religious cocktail. But you follow one. It is based on orthodoxy. You cannot be liberal unless you were orthodox before. You cannot be charitable unless you have made money before. So therefore, it is not that you make a hodgepodge, a salad of everything. That has no root. So therefore, these are the four. It speaks of four values. Moral perfection, fulfillment of legitimate desire, worldly prosperity, spiritual freedom. The four basic values. Moral perfection is necessary to give us strength. Worldly prosperity gives us confidence that I am somebody and I can do something. Fulfillment of legitimate desires gives us a scope to participate in the society, feel for others. We are a part of the larger creation. But all the three, they must lead to the fourth, which is liberation, freedom of the spirit, communion with God, or whatever you may call it. Four values. Keeping with the four values, there are four stages of life spoken of. First, a student, he must master the sacred and secular education. Then he enters into family life. Then when he reaches 50, hair starts getting grey, skin wrinkle, he should slowly withdraw, leaving the humdrum to the hand of the juniors and getting ready for the next trip. Finally comes sannyas, which is a freedom, an expansion. The four stages, they tell us, and the four values, that life is a journey to move on to greater and greater freedom. This is good, but this is not enough. And this freedom does not come simply believing. Layer after layer of misconceptions and wrong ideas must be cleared. This is not just simply I read and say and it happens, or I kind of sign a pledge or a form. If you happen to be a Vedantist, these are the few tips. Be goal-oriented. As a way of life, be goal-oriented. We need a goal. But tragedy is we have weekly goal, monthly goal, financial goal, educational goal, but there is no one goal, umbrella goal to hold the other goals. Often our financial goal is in contradiction with our vacation goal. So have a common goal. That goal is God realization. Choose any path. If you like, follow the path of Christ, follow the path of Buddha, follow the path of any other. But keep one path. Unless you follow one path, you will never reach the goal. Follow one teacher, Vedanta says. To make a little digression, someone said that one teacher leads to illumination, two teachers lead to confusion, and three teachers lead to cremation. So therefore, you should be careful. Too many advisors sometimes lead to confusion. Be goal-oriented. Be realistic. To be over-optimistic, it's childish. To be over-pessimistic is sickness. Middle path is a wise and mature way. Being realistic means you depend upon yourself. Vedanta says help comes from you. A man was hiking alone with backpack, got a load of weight on his back. While walking, he slipped and he began to roll down. It was from 5,000 feet up in the mountain, rolling down. Somehow he grasped a stump of a dead tree and hanging. He was an atheist, or at the most you can call healthy agnostic. He never prayed, but at this dire moment he looked toward the heaven. He said, "Is there anyone to help me?" Pause. A voice came, "My son, let thy whole go. I will bear you up." There was a long pause. The man looked up. "Is there anyone else?" Obviously, he was not depending upon that you hold that. So therefore, it says be realistic. So therefore, don't be either pessimistic or optimistic. The optimist is a man. When he goes for fishing, he carries with him a frying pan. He is an optimist. But pessimist, he knows that it is a burden. Next, develop your immunity as a way of life. We are aware of the immunity against diseases. But what about the immunity against sorrow, death, unpredictability, upheaval, bereavement? A human individual needs more mental immunity than physical immunity, because a human individual uses mental strength. There are three kinds of strength. Physical strength, called bahubalam, mental strength, buddhibalam, and soul strength, dharmabalam. Animals use physical strength. Human beings, they use mental strength more. And prophets and saints use soul strength. Since I must use mental strength, how do I immune myself? What is my guarantee? Guarantee, Swami Vivekananda says, you feel sorrow, suffering. In these there are two It's a matching grant. You contribute 50%, external nature contributes 50%. You have no control over the external nature. You cannot make the world perfect. If the world is perfect, there will be no world. What you can do, you can stop your contribution of 50%. Means you don't make yourself weak. Bacteria are there in the room all the time. When I become weak, I catch a disease. This is the best thing I can do. That instead of waiting for a perfect world, I can make myself strong. How do I develop this immunity? Vedanta says that which is the cause of sorrow, death, that very thing holds the cause of immortality. If you want to enjoy life, you must take both life and death. When you meditate, you must know you are injecting into a system a measured dose of death, so that in course of time, when death actually comes, you are immune. It is not a surprise for you. When you practice detachment, you are injecting a doses of immunity. We know the same bacteria, when cultured, made, out of that made penicillin and others, we give to the patient. That bacteria, instead of destroying it, defends the body. In the same application, Vedanta says applies here. Develop your immunity. Next, always know even this shall pass. Keep this in mind. Nothing is permanent. When the good days come, think that this shall pass. When the difficult days come, think that this shall pass. Maintain your rhythm. Rhythm of in-breathing and out-breathing. Attachment and detachment. A person who cannot detach, he cannot attach. Nature teaches us, I must withdraw, response and action. When these two are separated, a great catastrophe can come. The whole nature is vibrating. I must vibrate in that. So I withdraw myself to my being, then I respond to become. Beat your past by acting on the present. Brooding over the past does not give a solution. Neither does it do by dreaming about the future. What you are now is because of your past thoughts. What you will be in future depends upon what you think now. You are the maker of your destiny. You are making and unmaking by your changing your thoughts every moment and every day. Choose a plan and do it. It is possible. It is attainable. Vedanta consoles us, tells us that man is the maker of his destiny. He is the most real thing. Let the search begin from him or her. End of suffering and sorrow. He must solve by himself. It speaks of immortality. Immortality is an awareness, freedom from body and mind. It gives us, presents before us, an immortality which is attainable. It shows us a way that really does lead. It assures us that we cannot give you a perfect world, but we can make you individually as perfect. It consoles us that saints had their past, sinners have their future. Vedanta is not materialistic. It is not a believer in false transcendence. The materialist gives in. The transcendentalist gives up. It does not fight. It does not quit. It does not give in. It does not give up. It faces by knowing it. Anything which you know, you have control over it. Anything which you do not know, that thing has control over you. It believes in man, human destiny. It maintains that the light that shines in every heart cannot forever remain buried beneath the debris of violence, brutality, false thinkings, make-believe, and other cheap things. This light is destined to triumph over the darknesses of future that pervades us, that stares us at our faces. Thank you.
Masato ma satkamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mritturma amritam gamaya, aviravirma yedhi, rudra yatte dakshinam mukham, tenamam pahi nityam, om shanti shanti shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through, and guide us evermore with thy loving presence. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.